Hello and welcome to the Exclamation Mark Podcast. All your podcasts are belong to us. I am Crofton Steers, one of your two gregarious hosts, here to talk video games this week with my compadre, my buddy, my pal, my friend, my co-host, Bo Schwartz. Bo, how are you doing?
Hello, Crofton. Hello, exclamation mark podcast listeners. Welcome to another edition of this fine program.
Yeah, it's another edition, that's for sure. And I'm looking forward to this week. There's been a lot of stuff that's gone on, and we're heading to a couple of games that I'm looking forward to playing. Their release dates are coming up, and so yeah, I'm getting excited about gaming. It's been a bit of a dry spell, so.
Also, E3 season just around the corner.
That's right. Everybody's talking E3. Do you care about E3?
Kind of no, but I do love the deluge of game trailers that hit the internet during that week. Because generally there's something in there that I'm excited about. So I'm looking forward to getting. I feel like I've already gotten excited about the new Deus Ex Mankind Divided trailer, but
That's right.
I'm
yeah.
sure there'll be something.
Well, see, this is it. Like, there's like a cycle of games that are announced at E3, and then we get a little bit of information. We get like sort of a reveal trailer, then a little bit of information, then a little bit more information, and then a release date, and then the release date is delayed, and then the release date is delayed a second time, and then finally the game comes out. And a couple of those games recently, like Evolve, is one that I think of that showed well at E3, and then kind of people petered out of interest. Maybe Titanfall's another. I think it may have won Game of Show at E3 one year, and then kind of petered out pretty quickly afterwards. So I kind of feel like it's a long process from being shown at E3 to being released, and sometimes games can't withstand the constant scrutiny. Watch Dogs was another big one. It was announced. It was a big reveal at E3 and then took forever to come out. And then when it did, people were like,
Great. Now you've got me all anxious about the new Doom game.
Doom game.
That was like recent. That was on the news sites, I think today or recently, that there was a teaser. There was a teaser for the teaser trailer for the upcoming Doom thing. It's literally like 3 seconds of footage, double-barreled shotgun, and some skeleton guy with rocket launchers backpack thing. Yeah.
This is the world we live in.
So I'll be waiting like 3 years for the next Doom game after seeing the trailer in a few weeks and being maybe disappointed. Hopefully not.
Okay, so is Doom the thing you're most hoping for, looking forward for?
As far as I know, what's been promised to be at E3 is definitely going to be a Doom trailer. Then I look forward to seeing. I like the Doom franchise, so I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of disgusting monsters and stuff is going to be in it.
Any other games?
Well, I'm hoping Blizzard has some stuff to show. They sort of tend to show stuff year round, but. So I'm not sure if they're going to be there, but if there's any Overwatch-related things, I'd be excited.
Well, Activision will be there for sure. I know that a couple companies are having press conferences this year that don't normally. Normally, it's like Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft. That's it. Nintendo sat out the past couple of years, done their own thing. But Ubisoft and EA have kind of stepped up, but now you've got players like Bethesda that are having their own press conference. I think Square Enix is having their own as well. So that leads me to think that they've got a lot in the pipe. And Square Enix, for instance, we know about Deus Ex. We know about Final Fantasy 15. They released a demo for that. We know about the Rise of the Tomb Raider game. So maybe, they're going to show those. Maybe they have more stuff. But what I'm most excited for are the new reveals. Because when I talked about that cycle, about how they're announced and then all this shit, and then they go through tease after tease, reveal after reveal. With The Witcher 3 coming out tomorrow and Batman Arkham Knight coming out next month, I feel like aside from Metal Gear Solid 5, they're at the end of a cycle of like teasing and showing and then finally putting out the games. So I'm interested for the next cycle to begin. Like what are the games that I don't know about? Like games that I haven't even thought about, maybe new IPs. I'm hoping that will be revealed at E3. I'm hoping to see something new that blows my mind.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping too. But
Maybe some
I
VR.
don't spend too much time thinking about it. Once E3 begins, then we'll see. You know, I
Fair enough. Fair
yeah.
enough. So let's talk about stuff that's a little more closer to home. The news of the week in this week's readme.txt.
readme.txt.
All right. I always love that sound. Gets me head bopping.
Yeah, that's some real gaming hip hop music there. You know,
Y-
Mo-
y-
modem
so
rap. It's the new type of rap that's just around
modem
the
prep.
corner.
All right, let's start. I just mentioned The Witcher, so let's get right into it. Witcher 3 is getting tons of great reviews, and in fact, it's only the ninth game to ever get a GameSpot perfect score, which is a 10 out of 10. But not just GameSpot, a lot of positive reviews for The Witcher 3. Bo, have you played any of the Witcher games?
So the Witcher games are one of the few games that are constantly on sale for like $4 on
Yeah.
Steam. So I think I own both The Witcher 1 and 2. I've played maybe a couple of hours of Witcher 1 and maybe 20 minutes of Witcher 2. I've barely touched it. I'm still excited for the third one, but I'm a little bit like, well, I haven't played the first two. How much do I really want the third one? You know?
It's funny how that works. The hype train and like reviews and everything, how they
Yeah.
can make you want something you don't even think that you should want. And I'm a little different. I played, okay, so same deal. I own both Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. I put in a sizable amount of time into Witcher 1 well after it was released. Like both games were out. I was even thinking of skipping straight to Witcher 2, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this game. I enjoyed it quite a bit, although it was like one of CD Projekt Red's earlier games. It was kind of like there's a lot of like PC hardcoreness to it. It wasn't necessarily super user friendly or anything. And then Witcher 2, it also came out on Xbox 360, so it was a little more console friendly, but still there's kind of obtuse systems, like you're making a lot of potions and putting poisons on your blades and different things. The combat was better, story was better. It wasn't open world, it was more like we talked about Deus Ex and how they have those kind of like hub areas. It was kind of the same deal. Each chapter had kind of a hub area. So I like that, but you know what? I didn't finish it. So I got pretty far, and I didn't finish it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. And so now there's been all this hype, The Witcher 3 open world and all this. It sounds cool.
Witcher 3, have you met Skyrim before? And it's
Well,
like,
everybody's been influenced, and I finished Dragon Age Inquisition recently. Everybody's influenced by Skyrim. I like Skyrim. Everyone likes Skyrim. So if it's Witcher meets Skyrim, maybe I want to play that. I don't know.
well, I went on a rant about open world games a few episodes ago, so you know how much of a selling point that is for me. I'm like, oh, open world, like who cares?
But
But
you like Skyrim.
I do like Skyrim, but
This
Skyrim.
seems like the closest thing to Skyrim.
You know what? This is what's going to happen with me in The Witcher. I'm gonna wait for it to go on sale for $5. I'm gonna buy it. I'll play it for a few hours. Maybe I'll get hooked on it. Maybe I won't. The first two certainly didn't do that. So
I will say that it has also extremely high graphical requirements. My PC's starting to age out a little bit. I can still play a lot of things, but I think if I got The Witcher 3, I'd get it on PS4, which that version is supposedly pretty good. So
now,
uh,
yeah, my PC's worse than yours. So, but I'll still play a game even if the graphic. I'm not as much of a graphics whore as you are.
oh, I'm a graphics whore.
Yeah, like you give it up for the graphics, but
Oh yeah.
what I'm and it's funny because I don't play any of their games, but what I'm really excited about is CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It makes it's the most amazing, and it's not even gameplay. I have no idea, but I'm hoping that that's the CD Projekt Red game that really, entices me to play the thing through.
Well, they took a bunch of people off that to finish The Witcher, and now that The Witcher's out the door, I'm sure that like they'll go full tilt on that. Maybe who knows? Maybe at E3, maybe they'll reveal something.
Oh, there's one I want to see at E3.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Now, speaking of games that I am super excited about, next month we're a little over a month away from Batman Arkham Knight, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about this game. I thought it was going to be another, a new Arkham game made by the Rocksteady guys. The Batmobile was going to be the big thing. I was happy. I was pretty stoked. They've revealed now combo moves with multiple heroes, and it's beyond that. It's that multiple. There are scenarios in the game and situations where you will be playing essentially more characters than just Batman. So you might the video they showed Batman and I think Robin or Nightwing were attacking a bunch of dudes, like they coming in Batman style from the roof, and then while you're controlling Batman with the slick animation system and fight system they already have, the computer is controlling the other guy, and you have a button that allows you to switch back and forth at the drop of a hat, and you can build up a combo with one guy, switch to the other, and use the special abilities, and then there's like combo special moves between using both characters and stuff. It looked pretty sick. I was enthused when I saw it.
Oh, I need to check this out. Batman, like, I feel like I'm so behind on Batman games because I love the first of this new Batman series, and you purchased one as a gift for me that I haven't played. I think that was Arkham City.
Arkham City. The fact you haven't played that game
I need
tears
to
me
play
up
it.
inside.
I know it's going to be super fun because I've played the first one, and the way you describe this Arkham Knight thing actually sounds like it's going to be a really exciting inclusion in the Batman gaming franchise. It's so funny that Batman is like the superhero game to really own and play. It's by far the best one from.
It's all about TLC, man. It's all about the love and energy. You can see the guys at Rocksteady have, and the time that they've been given. Like, they don't need to tie into a movie release. They don't need to do anything. It's really cool. So Arkham Knight is going to be the last sort of the go big finale to that series, and I'm really excited for it. I will say I am a little skeptical of controlling other heroes and all this. I always like Batman better as a lone wolf, and so that's a little bit. My spider sense, to borrow from another hero, is tingling a little bit, but I think it's going to be good. I'm excited.
As like gimmicky. Well, you were skeptical about Shadows over Mordor, and you really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, it turned out good.
Yeah. All right.
So, next story here, Bo, you want to handle this one?
Well, Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Unity was our bad. Next one will be awesome, we promise. I mean, essentially, I think Ubisoft came forward and apologized and acknowledged all of the complaints regarding the latest entry into the Assassin's Creed, which I don't play Assassin's Creed. I haven't since the second one. And I've heard news, like, when you hear about a game being, very disappointing, and you don't even play it, you know that it's affected a lot of people. And it's what's kind of striking about this is that they're not promising to support the game they released. They're saying, "Oh, don't worry, the next one will be better." And that's
well, they have okay. In their defense, their defense, they've already released a sizable amount of patches and addressed a lot of the concerns regards to it. Yes,
okay.
However, it doesn't change that the overall game design of Assassin's Creed Unity may have not been the best to begin with, right? But they definitely have addressed. They released they gave some DLC away that they were going to charge money for to at free to the people who bought it before they did all the fixes, to sort of say, hey, our bad. So that's great. I like that. But they have never until recently, and this isn't an article from Polygon we're pulling from here, they had not like had the core developers stand up and sort of take ownership at the fact that Unity was disappointing, and now they're doing it, but they're doing it sort of in a way to promote the next one, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is their annual release for this year. Now, I admit, I look at Syndicate. It's set in London. It's in the Victorian era. It looks pretty slick in the trailers, but Unity did as well. And there's some bad blood, I guess. People feel let down by Ubisoft, and honestly, Assassin's Creed needs a break as well. So I don't know how much enthusiasm they're going to generate this year for Syndicate. I know I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fanboy, and I didn't play Unity because I was scared away. First of all, I didn't have a PS4 at that time, and my PC would have really struggled. But secondly, the bad reviews just scared me away.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I won't play Unity at one point, but I won't be rushing to the store on day one to buy the new Assassin's Creed. They've damaged their reputation.
Yeah, and that's sort of what this means to me overall, is that there are gaming companies, and we mentioned Cyber 2077 from CD Projekt Red. At the end of that trailer, it's like release date is when it's ready. And, I'm a Blizzard fanboy, and a lot of that stuff is we'll release it when it's ready. And when I think about the Assassin's Creed franchise, because I don't want to... I'm a big Rocksmith fan from Ubisoft, so I feel like I don't want to paint the entire Ubisoft pantheon of games with the broad brush, but the Assassin's Creed feels like, hey, it's been a few days. Isn't there a new Assassin's Creed releasing today? Where is it? Like, you kind of expect one to be dropping like all the time on some platform, and I think the fact that there are bad ones is what's happening with this kind of strategy, and they need to really look at. I think they have really big fans. The Assassin's Creed has a fan base that is dedicated to them. I've seen people with statues and things on Twitter. They really need to respect the fans of that franchise and start releasing their games like
they do.
This is not the first Assassin's Creed to be released poorly,
but this is. It is the worst release of an Assassin's Creed in the franchise history in terms of performance. I would say that the one thing about Ubisoft is Konami has recently announced that it's moving away from games and focusing on other revenue streams. Mm-hmm. Ubisoft is very much into games, and definitely Assassin's Creed is its cash cow that allows them to do a lot of the other things. And you mentioned Rocksmith. I guarantee you that game does not sell that well. And there's other games like all the Ubi art games, Child of Light, Valiant Hearts, that World War I game. Like they can only do those games because the Assassin's Creed cash cow is feeding the front end. So it's kind of like it's a mixed thing, right?
Yeah, like I don't want to pretend like I fully understand what's going on, at Ubisoft. I just know that if I were a fan of the Assassin's Creed games and I started to feel like they just were taking my money but not delivering a quality experience, then that's wrong. That's bad. We pay our hard-earned cash to get a usable product. So tell us it's going to take 6 months later.
Speaking of hard-earned cash, Oculus Rift, they've finally announced, and this is another step towards it being a real thing that we can buy. Oculus Rift has announced the PC requirements to have your sort of the best Oculus experience. I think these are closer to recommended than required, but still they're beefier than what I have right now, and it makes me realize that I'm going to have to upgrade if I want the best Oculus Rift experience next year when it releases.
Makes total sense, except I'm not clear on it's the consumer version of the Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, these are the specs for it. You're going to need an NVIDIA GTX 970 or AMD 290 equivalent or greater. I'm way behind on that.
Yeah, me too.
Intel i5 4590. Not sure what the 4590 means, but an Intel i5 or greater. So I think we both have i7s. We're covered there. 8 gigs of RAM. So I just make that benchmark. What about you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd have to check.
We're going to get to the point where we're going to start needing 16 and 32 and 64. Compatible HDMI 1.3 video outputs. Most video cards have that. We're going to need 2 USB ports. I already knew that from my development kit edition. And Windows 7 or greater. Free copy of Windows 10 is just around the corner. So that's probably... The big thing here is the video card and the RAM, probably for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And video cards are complicated. I tried to recently upgrade and got totally hosed. So I mean, like, I bought my computer in 2011, and so I'm looking, maybe thinking about getting a new one, and this could be the tipping point. I still need to see, and I think this goes back to the E3 stuff. I need to see a game that's Oculus Rift. Not supported, but almost made for the Oculus Rift. And my feeling is that game is going to be the new Mirror's Edge game.
I'd love to play Mirror's Edge game on Oculus.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out, and I my feeling is it's going to be focused on the VR component. But we'll see. Anyway, it's going to be an upgrade for me.
Another big one is the EVE Online guys, CCP. They're making an Oculus only game, the EVE Valkyrie, which is a space shooting game.
Yeah.
And they haven't, they tried to make a foray into the first person shooter realm and didn't do so well with Dust 514, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
So I'm a little like, and they canceled their World of Vampires or whatever, that vampire MMO that sounded super amazing that got canceled. So I don't know. It might be vaporware, but if that does get released and really becomes a thing, that would be exciting too. What I'm really curious about, and they haven't said yet, and I'm hoping maybe E3 might shed some light on this, are the updated specs for the consumer version. The thing that bothers me the most about the Oculus Rift experience right now is the screen door effect. I'd really love to see some smaller, more denser pixels on the screen because I find it detracts from my experience personally. All right.
Fair enough.
So if there's nothing more to add on that, the one last little mention before we wrap up the news is that Civilization Beyond Earth gets a new expansion, Rising Tide. And essentially what this means amongst a bevy of features is that you'll be able to colonize the oceans in a way that isn't possible in the Civilization, regular game, Civ 5, the most recent edition. It looks like you'll be able to construct like cities, and there'll be sea monsters on the alien planet that you've colonized. And so, as a Civilization fanboy, this is a definite pre-order for me. And this is an example of expansion packs taking a game rather than being additional content. They take a game and just develop it and make it better and more complex. So I'm looking forward to the new thing.
I also noticed that Civilization Beyond Earth is on sale on Steam right now. I think it's like 50% off or something. It's not for me. I barely put any time into Civ 5, much less going beyond the Earth.
It's kind of Civ with a new coat of paint and some adjusted rules and aesthetics. So if you don't like Civ, you won't like Beyond Earth.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like Civ. I just don't like. I haven't.
If you don't play it.
Yeah,
if you play it like I play The Witcher.
Yeah, that's how I play. Like you play The Witcher. Civilization is my Witcher.
It seems like a travesty that I haven't played Witcher, honestly.
Well, I don't think it is, except for the fact that CD Projekt Red is a very big PC focused company. They are the company responsible for GOG, Good Old Games, and I would say that they're a company that I like to support whenever I can. So even though I tend to get their games super cheap just due to the constant sales.
Well, that's a good argument to make. All right, so I think that wraps up our readme.txt. Are you ready for games per minute?
I'm ready, Bo.
Let's go.
You're always talking about making kids' minds like vegetables. Talk about them out on the street smoking pot.
This is Games Per Minute.
How do you feel about cutting his head off? One.
This is Games Per Minute, where we talk about what we've been playing in the past week since the most recent episode of the Exclamation Mark podcast. Crofton, let's start with you this week. What have you been playing?
All right, so this is going to turn into Crofton playing the same game over and over, but this is the deal. I got a lot of obligations, so I'm still playing Xenoblade Chronicles, and I'll be honest, this is on the 3DS, and I'll be honest, I'm past the point of like acquiring the taste now. I am in, so I'm enjoying it big time. The combats all come together. I'm getting into the minute-to-minute gameplay, and the story is pretty interesting and all this. So I feel like I will be mentioning Xenoblade Chronicles again and again and again in the weeks to come, because it's got a ton of content. It's one of these beefy JRPG games. Said I wanted to take a moment to talk about the other game I'm playing, because Xenoblade is, it's on the 3DS. Which is great and all, and I do travel in this, but I'm often sitting on my couch playing it, looking at my 52 or 55 inch or whatever television on the wall that's not being used, and it is a little ridiculous. So I decided to crack open the shrink wrap on one of the games that came with the PS4 that I got earlier this year, and that's Grand Theft Auto 5. Bo, have you heard of this game?
What's Grand Theft Auto 5? Yeah, of course I've heard of it. So
also,
you've played it on PS3, right?
I played it. Yeah, I think PS3.
So that's
or
why you
Xbox.
have a shrink wrap PS4 version, because they released.
I
it
had
for
already
the new console.
finished the game.
Okay.
Like, I had played it before, and I think it's been in the news a lot because they've just released the PC version. There's a bunch of mods happening. There's a bunch of excitement swelling around the game in this, and so I just said to myself, I don't want a game that's going to detract too much from Xenoblade Chronicles, because I don't want to quit on it, and it's a lot of fun. And I am playing both games at the same time, but it's clear that I'm more interested in playing Xenoblade because it's new content, and also for other reasons, which I'll talk about in a second here. So GTA 5, one thing, Bo, that I find interesting is that this is sort of like a resurfaced version, like an enhanced version of the one you mentioned, the PS3 and stuff. So I was kind of not dubious, but I was wondering how it was going to look. And plus, I had just played Infamous Second Son, which is a PS4 exclusive, and the graphics are top notch on it. Previous to that, I'd played Watch Dogs, which is another open world city game, and I thought, man, this is just going to be like an up-res version of an old gen game and this sort of thing. And then I put it in, and I was like, "Holy shit, this looks good!"
It's that much better, eh?
Okay. So visually, it's super impressive. I can't say that it's not. But what the thing that strikes me this time really is the sheer amount of detail that goes into it. And I've seen articles like Danny O'Dwyer at GameSpot did this video feature about why worlds like Watch Dogs feel artificial, and worlds like the world in Grand Theft Auto feel real. But I definitely felt it this time making the transition. It feels like a lived-in place. The level of detail is just astounding. Like no recycled textures, no recycled anything. So like I'll give you an example. I'm sort of walking on the street with the character that you kind of start the game with, and I'm just looking around, and one of the big new features is first person mode. So it allows you to really sort of take in all the bells and whistles, and people are having conversations on the street, stuff's going on. I'm like, wow, this is sweet. Then I look up, and the telephone poles, instead of all being kind of like the same, they're all kind of like, one's a little teetered a little bit, and others are like, each individual telephone pole is kind of different. And then there's like shoes hanging from the wires, which is sneakers hanging from the wires, and a couple of places in the neighborhood where my guy's from, which is an indicator that some drugs are sold in those establishments or whatever. But it's not, they serve no functional gameplay purpose. It's just a little touch. Like it's you might never even look up there. Honestly, before first person mode, I would never have looked up and seen these sneakers just drape, and you can see the laces and all that. And I was just like, man, the level of detail is ridiculous in this game, um, and it puts out all other games to shame. But, and I'm going to come back to this, I'm sure, as I continue to play GTA 5 for a second time, it really suffers with regards to the fact that you are playing as a total douchebag all the time.
Really, like
It,
you're not
yeah,
a hero. Like in that game, there's no paragon or renegade path. Like you're clearly,
a dick.
yeah,
Yes.
you're a criminal. Like the world bends to you.
All three characters, because you play three different characters, are different shades of dicks or psychopaths, and
Different shades of
it,
dicks. Okay.
and yeah, it like it's really annoying. So even the first guy you play is Franklin. He's sort of like an up and coming kind of gang banger a little bit, but like he's trying to do good, but really he's just trying to go up in the world and will do anything that anybody tells him to do for no reason. Trevor, who got the most press for this game, is just a crazy psychopath that just kills everyone for no reason. And Michael is this middle-aged guy who is essentially what happens after you win a video game like this. Like he's pulled off a giant heist. He's now retired and has a wife that hates him and a kid that hates him, and like you think that he might be, maybe a little more relatable, but no, he's a dickhead too. Like so they're all dickheads, and it is difficult when you're playing a game like Xenoblade Chronicles that is about these earnest young kids. It's all JRPG tropes, right? Trying to save the world and do good for their friends and family.
Yeah.
And then you cut back to these dickheads doing dickhead things for dickhead reasons. It's hard, and it's hard too because the game is so well made. Like everything about it is amazing. The design. I wish they could take the world of Grand Theft Auto and just like, and maybe this is what the mods on PC are doing, but like use it for other games. I'd like to play a superhero game where I'm a superhero in the world of Grand Theft Auto, instead of being a dickhead, So
Wow.
I will say it's fun, but it's always tempered with that. Like I would rather be somebody else or playing as somebody else,
Yeah, that would be like my biggest. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with any adult-related content. Like, my understanding is you can go, engage if in prostitute. Like, you can hire a prostitute to service you in that game, for example. Like, I don't mind the adult content or even questionable content. But what I kind of don't like about the Grand Theft Auto games is what you sort of said right there, which is just there's no choice about your agency in that world. Like you were there to cause destruction, mayhem, and to engage in a story that's about a selfish, horrible person.
But
in
see,
some way.
Grand Theft Auto 4 had where you played as Nico Bellic and stuff. He's like an immigrant that was sort of shell shocked from a war, and like yeah, he's fairly reprehensible in his own right. But there was something about him that you could get behind. There was something in his cousin Roman and all this, and they got on. And while there was bad things that happened, they felt like people and they had redeeming values. Whereas the characters in GTA 5, they all feel like people too, but there's nothing redeeming about any of them really. They're all horrible people. And I find that annoying because Rockstar can clearly make characters that you can get behind. And the guy from the Ballad of Gay Tony, not Gay Tony, but like the guy you play, he was like not a bad guy either, like it. So I feel like that they can do it. They choose not to for whatever reason. I think of Red Dead Redemption and John Marston, and he was like a perfect Rockstar hero in that you could get behind him, but realize that he was flawed at the same time. I thought that's amazing and makes me like that game much more than I like GTA 5.
Maybe there's some sense of you're doing things that are, quote, wrong in the context of the game fantasy, but you kind of can relate. Like, something about the story makes you frustrating that you'd feel like you'd want to kill some person and you kill them in the game, even though you'd probably not do it in real life. Like there's a relatability there, to that kind of playing in fantasy.
There's context
Yeah.
given. There's context given for sure, because when you start playing GTA 5, the first scene in the game is a prologue to the actual game, and it takes place in whatever is the equivalent of kind of the New York State area during winter time. And in that prologue, the game immediately starts with you and your buddies pulling off a heist. Like you're exiting a bank that you've just robbed, and then a bunch of cop cars arrive, and then to escape, you literally have to mow down cops. Like, so the first thing that they're telling you to do in the game is to kill cops, and there's no way to get around the cops. There's no way to escape without killing the cops. It's just like you have to. These are bank robbers that have been busted, and they got to shoot through the cops to get out, and you have no choice on that. That's just their personalities. That's the concept. So I mean, I find that is a frustrating element. I like having choice about how I behave in a video game, and I really feel like while you do to a certain extent once you get to San Andreas, it's not like you can't really. All your options are different shades of being a dick, I find. So
Well, yeah, it's too bad then. But I think that game has its audience.
But it's not just it. The problem is that this is the game that the most of any game I've ever played. This is the game the most TLC has gone into, and it really feels frustrating to me in that regard, because I want to play this world, this new virtual world with the great graphics of the PS4 and all this. I'm gonna play it further, but I know I'm, again, like I was last time, going to be constantly annoyed by the insane idiocy of the dickheads that I control. So anyway,
you should send Rockstar an email and tell them you want the expansion to feature a story about a good guy criminal.
and they are talking about more story content, so who knows, maybe they'll have
I feel like this is a new generation, so they have a real opportunity to continue making stories in their new game world, like their new engine or whatever it is they've done. All right. For my
what are
part,
you playing, Bo?
Yeah, for my part, I've been playing Heroes of the Storm, and that's quite literally all I've played last week. I meant to crack open something else, but I just didn't get around to it. So a new hero was released. That's always a big event in MOBAs and or team brawlers, as Heroes PR likes to refer to itself in order to distinguish itself from a MOBA.
It's a MOBA.
Yeah, it's a MOBA. So Kael'thas is a face-melting champion. He took me a while to figure out, but now that I've figured him out, he's a lot of fun to play. And if you haven't, I don't know, like it's going to be an open beta, I think, pretty soon, and the launch date's pretty soon. So I recommend Kael'thas as a champ. He's quite literally in every game, as whenever a new hero is released, they're played in every game.
And what does he like? What game does he come from?
He's from World of Warcraft. He was I know he was a boss in the dungeon in one or two dungeons in Burning Crusade, and I'm not sure that you fought him in a raid, but his story was intertwined with the infamous Sunwell Plateau, raids there where you go to fight Kill Jaden. I was in Burning Crusade. I was still sort of leveling, so I wasn't really part of the whole end game content really until I got around to Wrath of the Lich King. So, but a lot of people have he's a fondly remembered character from the Warcraft lore.
Is he powerful in Heroes of the Storm?
Yeah, well, you've played Hearthstone. You know how annoying Pyroblast is.
Yes.
Yeah. One of his ultimates is Pyroblast. And it's really fun because he winds it up like a baseball. He's got to channel it for 2 seconds, which is a real drawback. But if he does launch it, there's this slow-moving fireball that spreads across the map that locks onto its target that nothing can stop. And so if you try and run away, it'll just follow you and follow you and follow you and eventually blow you up. And
can you draw it onto somebody else? There's got to be something you can do.
No. So line of sight doesn't affect this thing, whereas a lot of abilities like it, line of sight would. That's the fun part. The only thing you can do is heal through it, and if you're topped up at max health, it won't kill you. And the other way there's a few little tricks you can use depending on what kind of hero you are to juke your way out of it. But if it hits you, it also does incredible splash damage to everything around you. So you also need to stay away from your friendlies.
So could you then just run into enemies and like hope the splash damage is going to massively damage them, especially if you know you're going to die?
There's no friendly fire in generally in MOBAs. There's no friendly fire, so
Oh,
that's
I see.
that's not a strategy that works. Generally, you're dead. The good news is that because of the wind-up time it takes to cast it, it's a bad ultimate. You usually end up taking the other one, which is a Fire Phoenix that shoots fire, but it's the least flashy of the two. Pyroblast
2 seconds doesn't sound long.
It's long in a MOBA. I mean, 2 seconds is like, hey, that guy's casting Pyroblast. Hit him with something, like go mess him up or run away. It has a range, so if you run out of its range before he winds up his baseball, then you can escape it. Having played a bunch of games with it, I can tell you it's better to go Phoenix. I've had more success that way. The other kind of fun thing he does is he shoots this living bomb on people. And so it sets the guy on fire, and after a few seconds it explodes. And if you spec out your character properly, the explosion will spread other living bombs to other characters. So if your enemies are in a nice tight clump of, dudes, and you cast some living bombs on them, they all explode on each other and cast other living bombs on each other and generally all die. It's fun.
Tight clump of dudes.
Tight clump of dudes. One might say a critical mass of dudes, as I'm fond of saying something.
So, are you still playing with Scott Johnson and his crew? Or?
Yep. So I don't have anything to announce just yet, but Scott Johnson is trying to organize a sort of a Heroes of the Storm Frog Pants community tournament sort of deal. There's no details to be released just yet, but I have been asked to be on Scott's team, and I'm more than excited to be playing on there. So we've been playing. I've been playing. Basically that's what's been driving a lot of my playtime, is that there are a lot of people out there who actually enjoy playing with me. And before all of this, I was playing by myself solo queue. So it's actually nice to meet some level-headed, rational people who aren't jerks, as MOBAs are often filled with those things. Some very cool people to be playing games with. So
it makes a big difference.
Like I've got a reputation now. I was on the Into the Nexus pre-show, and there was a guy in the chat saying, "Oh, tell Gorath to play his Nova. He's so good at it. You want to play it." And then I was like, "All right, I guess I'll play Nova." And we lost the game, and I was like feeling the pressure of like, oh, some person out there is like wants to see me play this thing. I better not suck.
Is that your best guy?
Yeah, by far, I play the best with Nova. So
Nova's from StarCraft?
She's a StarCraft character. She's a ghost, like a
ghost,
invisible snipery person.
Even I know that one.
You need to hop into some games, my friend.
Maybe sometime. I'm still on the fence.
Heroes hype train.
All right,
but yes, I've been playing tons of Heroes. So, and when there's more information regarding the Heroes of the Storm tournament that I'll be a part of, I'll be sure to be talking about it. Here, watch this space.
Sweet.
All right, so I think it's time to move on to something a little different. Do you agree?
I agree, Bo. I'm very agreeable.
You are agreeable. So this is the dialogue tree. Now there's one fine dialogue tree.
All right. So what do we got? What do we got here this week? Our topic of conversation in the dialogue tree, Bo. What will we be discussing?
Today we're going to discuss intentionally dumb games. So you may have seen such intentionally dumb games in your Steam catalog. These kind of games include Goat Simulator, the new Cat Lateral Damage, Kerbal Space Program, I think might be an intentionally dumb game, I Am Bread, and Surgeon Simulator. Anyways, you kind of get what we're going for here. It's games that kind of market themselves on the, oh my god, they made a game about this, you need to check it out, and you need to buy it factor. Certainly, if you visit any of the large gaming news sites like IGN and GameSpot, you'll see articles about these games, and you'll be like, why do I want to read about I Am Bread? It's a game about a piece of bread. Like,
it's true.
Like,
trying to become toast.
Yeah. So that's today's discussion in the dialogue tree. Are intentionally dumb games dumb, and should we not give them our money, or is it cool?
Well,
Across the
I do feel slightly ill-informed on this topic, because you just read out a list of games, none of which I have played.
But you've
Uh,
heard of.
I definitely have heard of them. I think, like, look, when it comes to video games, I like that they are now more expansive and omnipresent than ever. I like, I don't want 100 zillion military shooters. I don't want 100 zillion, like, JRPGs or whatever. I want to see variety in my games, and yeah, there's some ridiculous sounding games that I would not play. And honestly, I think a lot of these games are developed in this new generation that we're in, where people want to share experiences. And I think that there are experiences that you can YouTube and share. And I know Kerbal Space Program, there's all these, like, horrific space launches and physics gone awry that people like to share, and this. So I can't begrudge that too much. I think it's kind of neat.
I think for my part, though, like, what sort of strikes me about this game is I feel the same way as you. Games are a creative medium. I like games, make all kinds of games. Game creators, experiment. I mean, I love modding. I will play around with mods in my games. But the kind of thing that irks me a little bit about intentionally dumb games is you're being asked to, pay for a game. And I bring up Goat Simulator is by far the one that's received the most press, like editorial press about, should this be a game? Should we be having games like this? Because I think it quite literally, and I didn't buy it, but from my understanding from the marketing, it's quite literally a game where you blow up your goat and see what happens. And it's marketed, jokingly, like simulate, like games with simulator in it are like Flight Simulator. Like, they're very highbrow. They have an audience of people who know
Street Cleaning Simulator, Bo.
Euro Truck Simulator.
Euro Truck Simulator 2.
But in Euro Truck Simulator, like, I've seen some footage from that. You're parking your truck. Like, it seems like it's trying to simulate some real stuff in it, for people who want that simulator experience. Goat Simulator is not that. But is it a simulator? Sure. But I feel like a lot of it's marketed on the game hype of being a goat simulator, and not on an actual, let's make the best goat gameplay possible. And I could be wrong, but I'm very hesitant about this. And the reason we included it was because I suggested the item after seeing this thing called cat lateral damage. Now, PewDiePie, a famous YouTuber, has made like a video of him playing cat lateral damage, and that's the internet hype marketing machine. That's the way it sort of looks now. But I'm watching the gameplay, and you literally are a cat in the game, and your job in cat lateral damage is to knock things off of tables like real cats do. Like, have you ever wanted to be a cat?
Cats.
That's all. It's just knocking stuff. You get points for knocking stuff off tables and making the most mess possible as a cat. And you first hear that and you go, "Oh, that's so funny. That is hilarious." But guess what? They're going to charge you $10 for the experience. And my gut reaction was, this isn't a gameplay experience. Like, calling it a game, I guess it's got mechanics and there's things you do and it provides you with some laughs. But a game, I think, provides a bit more than that. It seems like a mod. It's almost like charging for a mod, except it's original content. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay for this. If I play it for free and they've made something really special, I'd consider donating. But I don't necessarily, like, this isn't a product I'm going to buy. And I'm a little bit like, what are the ethics behind marketing something as a game when it's kind of based on a joke? And I'm a little bit like,
yeah, I'm
it's a free country, but
I'm pretty much on the total opposite side of you on this. I think it's creative. I think it's neat. I think I would rather play, have these different experiences that are available. And like $10 isn't $70. And it's like, you can, in this age of streaming, you can see what exactly it is that you're buying. And I think there's tons of ways that you can make, playing as a cat interesting or hilarious. There was a game released for the PlayStation 2 way back when I think like in early 2000s called Mr. Mosquito, where you play as a mosquito and you go around like giving sexy Japanese ladies the once over with your mosquito thing because it's a Japanese game, and there's
Mr.
other like
Mosquito.
there's other and that game sold for like $60,
Oh
right?
my
Like
god.
I mean
You've got to be
there's
kidding.
that was
$60?
yeah, because that's how much new games cost, and it was a full retail PS2 game. This is before, we had these indie games or easy access to lower price point games. Like there are a lot of games that are either based on a joke or sort of play with the idea of humor to deliver a gameplay experience. I know last year during E3 they announced for the latest Dead Rising game, the one that's on Xbox One, they released like essentially it was a joke DLC pack spoofing all of Capcom's games. Like it was, super ultra mega blah 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 mixed Street Fighter with Mega Man and all this sort of stuff into ridiculous content for this zombie game. It was essentially a joke title and joke concept, but like I mean, it's fan service and people were interested in it. There's tons of people interested in cats. I could see why you'd make a game where you can play as a cat.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
it struck me as genius at first, but a part of me was just a little bit like, ugh. It's gonna be a dumb game, like and there's a little like it's not going to be, and maybe I'm wrong. Like I'd want to read a review. I'm not, but I assume that the gameplay aspect, the game part, is not going to be very complex. And
Probably not.
I question. I feel like the price of a lot of games is really in flux about what we're paying and what constitutes value in a game. But I look at that and I say there's probably not a lot of actual like game value in this. It's there for the lulz, and I was a little bit like And you mentioned like I'm looking at screenshots of Mr. Mosquito right now. God, what a ripoff that game looks like. First of all, it's pervy, but I'm sure that was intended, and it's like, why would I play this?
I know, but just because it's not for you
such
doesn't
a
mean
rip.
doesn't mean it's not for somebody, right? Like somebody's
know.
gonna.
I
I wonder how
know.
much. I wonder if you own Mr. Mosquito. I wonder how much that would sell for. I'm curious.
Let's go to eBay and find out.
I'm curious how many people own Mr. Mosquito, but
I wonder if there are any actual fans. Like everything has a fan, but like, can a game like that actually have a fan?
I don't know. But I understand where you're coming from. I understand because I've not shelled out any money for these games, but I do think that. One of the big sales points is the randomness, because I think that there's a certain amount of randomness. There are certain amount of things that can happen only in your game that you'll see something that nobody else will ever see. You see a lot of this in Grand Theft Auto 5 too, where there's some ridiculous things that can happen, and just with the physics and with the world and all this, you can create one of a kind moments. And as we are in this share everything culture, I think people like, throwing up on Twitch, throwing them up on Twitter or whatever, say, hey, check out this crazy thing that happened in Goat Simulator or whatever. So anyway, I can't begrudge them any.
All right. Well, I think I'm generally with you on the idea behind intentionally dumb games as being part of this sandbox we're all exploring, and we should all be supportive of everyone's creative efforts. But I am a little like, they won't be giving them my money. Like,
All right.
I spend a lot of money on games. If I feel like there's no value in it, you better be charging me 99 cents.
You just lost a whale, folks. He's a whale.
I'm a whale. All right. And so, do you have anything left to say on intentionally dumb games?
No, I think we beat it to death. This tree is now sawdust.
All right, then let's move on to this.
Inventory management is a challenging and inexact science.
Welcome to Inventory Management, where we answer the question, spend your cash or vendor trash. And I think it's going to be a somewhat unique inventory management experience this week because we didn't have anything new that we played. I'm going to take first crack and just say I don't have a game to recommend this week, but I did go see Avengers 2. And
I also did.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, why haven't you seen it? I have some nitpicks.
Everybody's seen it.
I've had some nitpicks with it, so I'm recommending it as my thing this week, since I don't have a game to recommend. Crofton, do you have a game to recommend?
Just before I answer that question, I would say about Avengers 2 that I liked it quite a bit too. And one thing, as a huge comic book nerd, it's really exciting seeing them go full nerd on if you took somebody who had not seen any of these Marvel movies and stuck them in that movie, just said like this is the first movie you're gonna watch, they wouldn't know what the hell is going on. It's just ridiculous. And the fact that a movie like that is not the beginning, not the end, but the murky middle of a giant comic book saga can make as much money as it is, which goes to show that people are watching the first movie. They're watching all these other movies. It makes my little nerd heart grow 2 sizes bigger because I'm just really happy that people are into this, but I do think that they're going to reach the point where the barrier of entry for new folks into these movies are going to be so high that they're going to have to either relaunch the entire cinematic universe, or at one point they're going to have to end it because it's getting to the point where you need to have seen like 5-6 movies for it to have made any sense to you.
Yeah, and you know who's that? Is it Peter Skarsgård or? You know the Thor scientist friend,
Stellan
Skarsgård or something like that. My mom has seen the Thor. I went to go see it with my mother, and my mother's seen the Thor movies, and we were talking about the movie after we left, and she's like, there's some stuff that didn't make sense. Like, who was that guy? And I'm like, that's the guy from all these other movies with this storyline that happens, and he's in the first Avengers movie. Doesn't he touch the whatever blobbity blue and gets mind controlled.
That's right. He's in the first Avengers.
I'm like, he's in all these movies. You don't remember him? And she's like, no.
But the other thing about that is that segment with Thor and going to the pool and all that. That was like, if you read these interviews with Joss Whedon, that was a really controversial.
I heard a lot got cut out of that movie, right?
Yeah, and it was a lot revolving around that because that scene really doesn't make the whole thing doesn't make too much sense at that point. Like when you think about what he did there, but like supposedly a lot was cut. But that said, there'll be a long director's cut at one point, and I'm just enjoying being in that period.
Yeah, I wonder how they let that out of the gate. Not that we want to get into a big debate about Avengers, but how can you be like, hey, we have this great movie, let's make it not make sense and release, like, let's go to bed at night knowing we did a good job on whatever we made because it doesn't make any sense. Like, somebody without a soul is responsible for that, and I hope they feel horrible and that. Because, the anyways, is, like
you can't. As much as it's fun to take the side of the director, in this case, Joss Whedon,
I'm taking the side of the viewer and watching something that's clearly insulting to me and to my intelligence.
Well, I think that there's the executives responsible for the Marvel movies know what they're doing, and they've made a lot of money doing it, and have generally put together high quality movies. So there were some things that weren't perfect, but I generally liked it. And it was your recommend, not mine. So.
Oh, yeah, no, I recommend it. I'm just, if we're going to get into it, the nerd debate, I have nitpicks with it, and but I think that you can find plenty of places to get that information a lot more accurately than for me.
So my recommend is also not a video game, and that has to do
with
the
video game podcast in the world.
Yeah, that I touched on the fact we're in a dry spell. I also mentioned the 2 games I'm playing. I'm not ready to give Xenoblade Chronicles the full recommend yet, though I think it'll probably get there. GTA 5 maybe a recommend in the future as well, but I'm going to need to play a little bit more of the remastered version. So I don't want to sell those. And I started thinking about a couple of the games I've liked of the past generation, but I feel like I would like to play them again or touch on them a little bit in conversation before giving them a full recommend. So I thought about what I did this week, And aside from Avengers 2, one thing, my wife and I watched this show on Netflix, which is an ABC show picked up by Netflix called Marvel's Agent Carter. And it is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was really entertaining. And I would argue more entertaining than Avengers 2, although in a different way, maybe equal, but it's only 8 episodes, and it's the direct sequel to the first Captain America movie. It follows, because at the end of the first Captain America movie, Cap gets frozen and then it skips ahead to the
Spoiler alert.
present time. Yeah, spoiler alert first.
You don't know that by now. Then.
Yeah, 60-year spoilers. But like he gets frozen, but they sort of leave all the characters from the past behind, and this sort of catches up with them. There's great casting in it. It's really funny, a really good story, fleshes out the Marvel Cinematic Universe even more. There's connections even into the Avengers, into Black Widow, and all sorts of stuff. So it's really it's 8 episodes. It's really worth your time. And I had just finished watching Daredevil previously. And it's funny to think that these two Marvel shows exist in the same cinematic universe, but it goes to show you how flexible it is, because Daredevil was good, but and Agent Carter is equally good, but it is lighter, and I would very much give it a recommend for this video game light week.
All right, so that's one I've been sort of on the fence about, so maybe I will check that one out. Okay, so I think that wraps up our inventory management selections for the week. And that's pretty much going to close out the show, Crofton. So let's give out some information about where you can find more about the EXM podcast. You can find our website at exmpodcast.com. There you'll find links to subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher. We're mainly an audio show, so if you're watching on the video stream and you want the full version with the awesome theme music, then you'll want to be listening to the audio version of the show. You can follow us on Twitter to get updates about when we go live and when there are new episodes at exmpodcast.com. And finally, we have a Facebook page, of course, at facebook.com/exmpodcast. If you're listening to the audio version of this and say, what is this live stream business? Well, you can find us on Twitch TV/EXM Podcast, and we generally live stream our episodes starting last week, Mondays at 7:45-ish, 8 o'clock-ish. We're not going to peg down an exact time because Crofton and I have to spend some time talking about the show content prior to the show. All right, Crofton, if our listeners want to find out more about what you're up to, where can they do that?
They can find me tweeting my video game thoughts away at Crofton Steers on Twitter.
All right, and you can find me at Bo Schwartz on Twitter, and you can also find us on our sister podcast, The Good, Bad, or Bullshit Podcast, at goodbadbull.com. And
yeah, if you like, especially for those of you listening through Twitch, if you like this show, it's not video game related, but we talk about a bunch of different topics. It's pretty interesting. I think that you would like it. You should check it out.
We've talked about extreme sports last week, for example.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a good one. All right, so now we close out our show with a little tradition that we call Master Game Theater. It's now time for Master Game Theater. All right, and so who's doing this week's Master Game Theater? I did it 2 weeks in a row, so I feel like it's your turn.
All right, I can do this one. Plus, I played Portal 2. Cave Johnson was the J.K. Simmons character, right?
Yeah.
So this quote is from Portal 2 involving Mr. Cave Johnson. And without further ado, I will do the scene, all right? Setting stage, breathe in, okay. All right, I've been thinking, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad. I don't want your damn lemons. What am I supposed to do with these? Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's going to burn your house down with the lemons. I'm going to get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.
Beep, 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 beep.